There's a particular kind of person who is very good at being almost happy. They're at the dinner, the one they looked forward to, the one that's going exactly as hoped. And they're there, they're laughing, they're present enough. But somewhere underneath the laughter, something quieter is running. A background calculation, a soft, persistent scanning of the perimeter. The mind doing mathematics it didn't ask to do. How much longer does this last? What ends it? What's the catch? They call it being realistic. They call it not getting their hopes up. They've learned to wear it like a kind of wisdom. The person who isn't naive, who doesn't set themselves up. And on the surface, that framing holds. It sounds reasonable, measured, mature even. But something far more specific is happening beneath that surface. And it has nothing to do with pessimism. It has nothing to do with personality type or outlook or the way some people are just wired toward the negative. Something was built at a specific point in this person's life, out of specific material, in response to something real that happened, and it never stopped running. Your mind is trying to tell you something. It has been telling you, in every vacation where you couldn't quite arrive, in every good relationship you inspected for cracks before you'd even settled into it, in every promotion you received and immediately began to distrust. You've been calling it caution. You've been calling it being realistic. That is not what it is. Watch how it actually goes. The good thing happens, genuinely good, undeniably good. The job offer, the new relationship in its best early weeks, the trip you've been anticipating for months. And there's a moment, right at the center of it, where you can feel the warmth of it. Feel it clearly, feel it as something real. And then, almost simultaneously, something else engages. A kind of internal bracing, a slight stepping back from the fullness of the experience. You become, almost imperceptibly, a witness to your own happiness rather than its inhabitant. You're at the hotel and you're thinking about packing to leave. You're 3 weeks into something wonderful with someone and you're already half prepared for the conversation where it unravels. You get the good news and your first private thought, before the relief, before the gratitude, is, now what can go wrong? And so you live at a careful remove from good things. Not unhappily, you aren't miserable. You're functional, often charming, frequently the person in the room who seems calm and grounded. But there's a distance you maintain, an arm's length you keep between yourself and full happiness. And when someone calls you out on it, why can't you just enjoy this? You don't have a good answer because you don't entirely know yourself. It feels like temperament. It feels like that's just how you are. It isn't temperament. It is instruction, something that was installed in you, probably before you had language for what was being installed, in a home or a childhood where the floor had a habit of dropping out without warning, where the good moments weren't safe to fully enter, because entering them fully was exactly when something came and ended them. You learned something then, something your body encoded before your mind could review it. Happiness is the moment before the drop. Relaxing is the thing you do right before it falls apart. And your mind, your extraordinary, loyal, protection-oriented mind, has been honoring that instruction ever since. Even now, when the instruction is no longer needed. Even here, when the floor is holding. It keeps running the protocol, not because it wants to ruin your happiness, but because it genuinely, in its own way, believes it is keeping you safe. What you call, "I'm just not someone who gets too excited," is not a personality trait. It is anticipatory grief, the nervous system that learned, at some formative point, that the gap between the height of something good and the moment it ended was the most dangerous place to be. And so it began, quietly, to start the grief early, to lean into the ending before the ending arrived, so that when it came, you would not be caught fully exposed. This is the subconscious performing its version of insurance, prepaying the cost of loss in small daily installments, a fraction of the joy withheld here, a fraction of the presence held back there, so that when the bill arrived, it would not be the total sum of something you had allowed yourself to love completely. It is not pessimism. It is a protection strategy, one that made perfect sense when it was built, one that has long since outlived the conditions that created it, and that you were never told it was safe to set down. The psychologist Antonio Damasio spent years mapping what he called somatic markers, the body system of emotional bookkeeping, the way the nervous system accumulates records of past experiences and applies them forward, not as memories exactly, but as felt predictions. Your gut drops in a certain kind of meeting because your body remembers the last time a meeting felt exactly like this one. You feel vaguely uneasy in a certain kind of relationship dynamic, not because you've consciously identified the pattern, but because the body has already cross-referenced it with something it survived once before. What Damasio found, essentially, is that the body keeps a ledger your conscious mind never gets to review. A running record of what cost what, of what followed what, of where the floor gave way last time. And when something in your present environment rhymes with an entry in that ledger, the body doesn't wait for the conscious mind to deliberate. It simply fires the signal, brace. That alarm that activates during your best moments. The feeling of this is too good, the sudden awareness of what you have to lose, that is not irrational. That is your somatic ledger doing exactly what it was designed to do. Cross-referencing the current good thing against every good thing that has previously ended badly, and sending the appropriate warning. We have been here before. We know how this goes. The problem is not the system. The system is precise. The problem is that it is running on outdated information. The ledger was compiled in conditions that no longer exist. The entries were made in a childhood that is over. And nobody told your nervous system that the file is old, that the floor it keeps bracing for has been replaced, that the current good thing is not the same as the one that ended so suddenly, so long ago. There are people who experience what psychologists call hypervigilance, a state in which the nervous system remains in low-level alert even during safety, because it has learned that safety is not a stable condition but a temporary one, and that arriving unguarded is the precise configuration in which harm tends to occur. In its most acute forms, this shows up as anxiety, as the inability to sleep in quiet rooms, as a chronic restlessness that refuses to believe stillness is safe. But there is a subtler form, a version that doesn't look like anxiety at all from the outside. It looks like composure. It looks like level-headedness. It looks, sometimes, like wisdom. It is the person who never loses themselves in a good thing, not because they are emotionally unavailable, but because some part of them is always standing slightly outside the room, watching the exits, making sure they know the way out if the structure changes. This is what your body has been carrying into every birthday, every first week of a job you love, every morning when you wake up next to someone and think, quietly, before they open their eyes, how long do I have this? That question is not coming from nowhere. It is coming from a very precise somewhere. From the specific neurology of a person who learned that endings do not always announce themselves, that good things can become not good things very quickly, and that the people who suffer most in those transitions are the people who were not already prepared. And here is what the signal is actually trying to tell you. Beneath all of that, you were not taught that good things could stay, not as a lesson delivered in words, but as an experience accumulated over time. Repeated moments in which the good thing, the warmth, the safety, the happiness, was interrupted, withdrawn, or simply ended without the ending being discussed. You did not learn that joy was sustainable. You learned that it was conditional, borrowed, on loan from some future moment when it would be returned. What is this signal trying to tell you? And what would change if you finally listened? It is telling you that the bracing is not protection. It is a position you learned to hold when the world was less stable than it is now. And what would change, if you listened, is not that you would become naive or unguarded or incapable of grief. What would change is that you would live inside the good things you are already inside, fully, as they are happening, not as memories you are making before they are over, but as the actual unrepeatable present moment in which something good is occurring. There is the half-presence, the way you are there, genuinely there, and yet, not fully. 1 foot in the moment and 1 foot in the door. You're at the party and you're already thinking about the drive home. You're in the relationship and you're already drafting the version of events you'll tell your friends when it ends. The subconscious is not sabotaging you. It is trying to orient you, to make sure you always know which direction the exit faces, because in its experience, knowing the exit matters. There is the premature nostalgia, missing something before it is over, grieving it in advance, finding yourself thinking about this moment as though it is already a memory while you are still inside it. This is not a poetic sensibility. It is the subconscious beginning the ending early, so the ending, when it officially arrives, doesn't have to be navigated from scratch. You are not savoring the good thing. You are already processing its loss. And the good thing, the actual live, breathing, present tense good thing, goes by just slightly out of reach. There is the too good alarm. The moment something is genuinely, undeniably, unambiguously good, and something in you flinches. Not visibly, not in a way anyone would notice. But internally, there is a shift, a slight pulling back, a quiet internal recording. This is too good. Things that are too good are the ones that fall the hardest. The alarm is your nervous system cross-referencing. It is the somatic ledger noting the entry and issuing its standing recommendation. Do not commit fully. Leave something in reserve. There is the preemptive withdrawal, the way you begin pulling back from something good before it has shown any sign of pulling back from you. The friendship you start canceling on before it cancels on you. The relationship where you find yourself picking fights in the good periods. Not because you want to end things, but because controlled deterioration feels safer than uncontrolled loss. You are, in those moments, steering toward the ending you fear so that you can at least be the one driving. There is the compulsive cataloging during joy, the way a genuinely good moment activates not just presence, but inventory. You're at the dinner, and somewhere underneath the dinner, you are making a quiet list of everything that could end this. It's irrational. You know it's irrational, but the list keeps forming anyway. This is the nervous system running its standard operating procedure. Threat assess all good configurations, because good configurations are historically where the threat arrives. There is the documentation instead of residence. The phone comes out. The photo is taken. And something in the act of photographing the moment means you were never fully inside it. You were archiving it. And the subconscious knows the difference. It is not the photo that is the problem. It is what the photo is for, to create a record, because the body has learned. That records are often all that remain. And that remaining evidence of something good is better than the alternative, which is having been fully inside it and having it disappear completely. And there is the exhaustion after joy, the way a genuinely good stretch of time, a successful trip, a good week, a period in a relationship that felt like finally, leaves you strangely depleted. Not because happiness is tiring, but because holding joy at arm's length while simultaneously trying to experience it is metabolically expensive. You have been running two competing instructions at once for as long as you can remember. Let yourself feel this, and don't let yourself feel this too much. The exhaustion is the cost of that split. The body billing you for the energy it took to be both present and defended at the same time. Here is the cruelest mathematics of this pattern. Here is where the protection strategy reveals its own fundamental flaw. The pre-grieving, the early mourning, the withheld presence, the joy held at careful distance, was designed to blunt the impact of loss, to make the ending more bearable by beginning it before it arrives. And yet the ending comes anyway. Every time. The good thing ends whether you braced for it or not. The relationship changes. The trip concludes. The perfect stretch of life moves into the next stretch of life. You paid in advance. You paid in every vacation you weren't fully inside, in every dinner where part of you was already at home, in every good morning you looked at and immediately began to calculate the distance to the last one. You paid the installments. And then the loss arrived anyway, and you paid again. The protection did not protect. It simply redistributed the cost, moving it from the moment of ending into every moment of living. You didn't avoid the grief. You elected to carry it continuously, in small amounts, across the entire duration of the good thing. And the unbearable part, the part your mind has been circling around, sending signals about in the form of a vague, persistent sadness you can't quite name, is this. You were never fully inside the good things you have had. The relationship in its best stretch, the job when it still felt right, the years when the people you loved were still exactly where they were. You were there, and you were also defending yourself against their ending. And they ended, and you had both the loss and the half-presence of the entire time before it. This is what the signal has been trying to say. Not that something is wrong with you. Not that you are incapable of happiness or too damaged for full presence. It has been saying, the strategy isn't working. The cost is too high. The thing you built to protect you from pain has become the shape that pain takes. The louder the signal gets, the better most people become at reframing the distance as wisdom, the bracing as groundedness, the half-presence as maturity. They get very fluent in the language of not getting too attached and being realistic and just not being the kind of person who gets swept away. The signal escalates, the vague, persistent sadness, the sense of watching your own life through glass, and the vocabulary for explaining it becomes more sophisticated. They are not running from something. They have simply learned to describe the running as a chosen position. The signal didn't disappear. It built a more articulate home inside the explanation. And yet, and this is the thing your mind has been trying, in every form, to get through to you. The bracing has not made the endings less devastating. The people who maintained perfect emotional distance from their good things did not grieve less when those things ended. They simply also missed the things while they had them. The protection strategy is not producing the outcome it promised. It is producing the loss twice. Once as a permanent anticipatory shadow over every good thing, and once when the good thing actually ends. Your mind is not confused. It is extraordinarily, precisely, urgently trying to communicate something that has been true for a long time, that you have had 100 frameworks for not hearing. The ending is not here yet. This good thing, this specific present tense good thing that is currently happening, it has not ended. You are inside it right now, and the signal running underneath it, the one you've been calling caution, the one you've been performing as maturity, that signal is not a warning about the future. It is a grief response to the past. It is loyal to a time that is over. It is bracing for a floor that has been replaced. The floor is holding. Not because good things last forever. They don't, and no amount of presence or openness or full inhabitation changes that. They end. That is true. But the ending is not the whole truth. The middle is also true. The present is also real. And what your subconscious has been trying to get your attention about, in every moment of half-presence, in every preemptive withdrawal, in every good thing you held at a slight remove, is that you are choosing the anticipation of loss over the experience of what is actually here. That is not wisdom. That is a child's survival strategy running in an adult's life long after the conditions that required it have changed. And the signal will keep running, keep escalating, keep presenting as that vague, persistent feeling of watching your own happiness from a slight distance, until you hear what it is actually saying. Which is not, be careful. Which is, you are allowed to be here. The signal was never a warning about the future. It was a record of the past, running forward on a loop, applied indiscriminately to every good thing that came after. Your nervous system did not distinguish between then and now. It only distinguished between armed and unguarded, and it chose armed, every time, because armed was the protocol that had helped you survive. You survived. That part worked. But surviving and living are different configurations. And your mind, the part that sends the signals, the part that escalates them when they are ignored, the part that has been quietly, insistently, persistently trying to get your attention through every vacation you couldn't quite arrive in, through every morning you looked at something good and immediately began the mental calculation of its ending. Your mind is not asking you to become reckless. It is not asking you to forget what you know about endings. It is asking you to consider that the good thing is still happening, that the middle has not ended yet, that you are, right now, inside something, a life, a day, a relationship, a moment that is still here. Not archived, not a memory, not the subject of a future grief you are already rehearsing. Here, actual, present. Your mind has been patient. It has sent the same message in 100 different forms, in the exhaustion after good stretches, in the phone that comes out to photograph instead of inhabit, in the fight you picked in the good period for reasons you couldn't name, in the vague, persistent sadness of watching your own happiness through glass. It has been trying, for longer than you know, to reach you with this. Maybe now, finally, you are quiet enough to hear it. You were not protecting yourself from loss. You were paying for it in installments, in every good thing you held at a careful distance, in every moment of full happiness you allowed yourself only partially. The ending is coming, for everything, eventually. That was always true, but it is not here yet, and you are allowed to be fully inside what is. If this reached something you've been trying to name, stay with it. Don't explain it away yet. Your mind worked hard to get this through to you. The least you can do is let it land.